Nashville. Did you know Jimmy was like Team Jordan everything, by the way?
Well, is he or is he just wearing the stuff?
I don't know. His cleats are Jordan Brand.
Maybe he is.
His did Jordan Brand like gobble him up this offseason or something? Maybe somebody can tell
Maybe.
us, but
Maybe so.
how about Jimmy going to Tennessee, John?
I heard it was his idea to corral everyone because they were going to do it. He got everyone that was in San Jose, brought them out there, told that he's paying for every guy that doesn't have a house because a lot of guys live out there, like Kittle, CJ, I think Trent Taylor. Trent Taylor does. Deebo was in Texas, so it was an easy shot for him. His whole crew that, Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Hurd, Ayuk, and I think Juszczyk came from the other side. They're all they're running a full-on practice.
It's impressive.
It really is.
They need some DBs though, because was Kittle play? Did I see Kittle playing defensive back? And
yeah, I think they just got some random guys that look like they found on the streets.
Receivers
just
are getting
stand there
open.
as landmarkers, But I'm pretty impressed that they pulled this off. Like that's not that normal, right? To converge two separate areas.
No, we know it's not normal, right? Because this is where I go back to
their team chemistry guy is pretty fucking high. I'm not trying to overreact.
No, I don't think you
are.
are. I don't think you are. And this is where I've been hammering this whole offseason, and I believe it very strongly, right? Losing a Super Bowl can create a hangover for a particular kind of team. But I've been saying since the season ended, I think anybody that's failed knows there's two different kinds of failure. There's failure that really brings you down, and there's failure that tells you you're really close. And these guys led the Super Bowl. And you could be depressed about that. This was our shot. Our window's closed, right? That's when you're maybe a little older. That's how you view it. But the failure they suffered in the Super Bowl this year is the kind that you walk away, you go, we are right there. We are so close. We know we have what it takes. We just went through a whole season. We were up on the Kansas City Chiefs. The only thing that didn't happen for us is we didn't win the last game, but we saw that we have what it takes. And this, again, is something that tells me, like, these guys just – I was talking to Steve Berman from The Athletic for a piece he's doing about podcasters. Us. I mean, not just us, but people podcasting through the pandemic, right? And he asked, like, did you guys know – how quickly did you realize that you had something in your podcast? For those of you that haven't been listening from the beginning, we started the podcast in, like, October of 2016. Our radio show ended in September 2016. And I said, well, we had a pretty good idea pretty quickly. Early October, like 2 or 3 weeks after our radio show ended, we started a podcast. And immediately we had a bunch of people who listened to the radio show, came with us, listened to the podcast. And it was one of those like, okay, today this podcast is not what we need it or want it to be in terms of making money, but it was just a very inspiring thing. And I think for them, I think you've got a team, because this is just I didn't think of it till we started talking about it. This is the kind of thing that someone who's inspired does. Just finds a way.
I think it helps to be inspired sometimes. Now, I don't think there's an age limit on inspiration. When you're younger, though, and you still have something to prove, or you could argue the age doesn't matter when you're in a new industry and you have something to prove, I do think it's easier. And when you look at it, like, Richard's not out here. Like, Richard doesn't have anything to prove. Now, that doesn't change his work ethic or what he cares about. Trent Williams will be there too. But I think when you look at this core group of individuals there, Jimmy Garoppolo has a lot to prove despite making a ton of money. Like, he ain't doing this for George Kittle, a shitload to prove, trying to be like one of the best players ever. Deebo wants to be a star. Kendrick Bourne, like, wants to establish himself in the NFL. Like, Kendrick Bourne, I don't know if he's going to be on this team probably after this year, but are we going to look and go, God, Kendrick Bourne had a 11-year career, and he's like, his foundation of his work ethic starts right here. And Trent Taylor's trying to resurrect his career. Like, you do have a lot of guys that I think it helps when the youth, the inexperience overall, a lot of these guys haven't been in the NFL that long, while Jimmy has more, leads the league in mental reps, still has. I mean, people are just shitting on him, kind of. Like, it's not that hard for him just to flip on the television or read something like, is Jimmy good enough? Like, that is kind of a pretty consistent narrative, just questioning how good he is. And I think I'm going to compare this team a little bit to the pre-championship Warriors team, like that team that lost, to the San Antonio Spurs in the second round. It was pretty clear early on, like, that team really liked each other. Like, I think these guys just really like each other. right? And that you can't really fake that. It doesn't happen on every team. Doesn't mean you always win if you like each other. Hell, the Eagles have won pretty consistently. It doesn't feel like they love each other, but it does feel like the 49ers, like George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trent Taylor. I mean, Deebo kind of palling around like Ayuk is like, can I come? Obviously, Jalen Hurd wants to be a part of this. Kendrick Bourne's kind of the ringleader. Like, I think these guys just really get along, and there's something to be said about that.
There is.
Say what you want at the highest level. You like it at the highest level. Like, do you think it benefited that Rob, that Gronk, Edelman, and Tom were all like legitimately friends? They all legitimately liked each other.
Yes.
Now, they were elite talents, but you can't tell me that that doesn't benefit the unit of the group. And I think Joe Staley is a good example where I think he really fit in and really liked these guys. And I think he's got to be like, God, it was something special. To me, it speaks to like how his body must be like, bro, I don't think you can do this, because I think he was a great example. We've talked to him before, just how open he is, how much he knows. Like, we got something here.
Well, he's been on a lot of teams that would have been easier to walk away from.
Yes. I'm out.
This might have been the hardest team there possibly – it probably is the hardest team there possibly was for him to walk away from.
Remember Willis was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm doing this. Right? It's like, I'll see you. Look at Luke Kuechly. I'm not saying that it always doesn't – I think if you're just ever on the fence, which I think that speaks to, like, when you look back at Andrew Luck, it speaks to probably how beat up he was, because their team was supposed to be really good. I'm telling you, man, I think the chemistry on this team is pretty good with their core group of offensive young guys. And I was told, just DMing with someone that was there, Jimmy put people up at the hotel room, that Jimmy's leading them through walkthrough. Am I saying Jimmy's Tom Brady or Drew Brees? I am not. But his leadership and the way these guys look at him, it can't really be disputed at this point, right? That these guys, he just says, follow me, and they just follow him.
Yeah.
Right?
And part of that is being good enough to be believed in. Right, whatever we argue about after the Super Bowl, should they have pushed the ball down the field at the end of the half? Should he have hit Emmanuel Sanders? Should he have thrown the ball more in the conference championship game? I know what his teammates say publicly about him, and then I know what I see when it comes time for him to lead them, how they act.
Wouldn't you say Matt Ryan is a good example? I was reading this thing. He's done this twice, right, in the lockout and then now. It's pretty easy for him to get everyone together because, like, Matt Ryan, like his equity, he's won the MVP. The guy's just like, Google, how much money has this guy made? You know, who's the most important guy on our team? Where Jimmy, again, back to the narratives, is he good enough? Is he not? Regardless what side of the fence you fall on, his teammates have had to defend him.
Well,
right?
Yeah, I mean, Juszczyk came out on Good Morning Football right after was that the week after the Super Bowl? He came on in that sweet leather jacket and was like, Jimmy's our guy.
Kyle's got a sweet look just to do TV hits because he's got a frohawk, good-looking dude, Harvard, fullback, but like a cool fullback, you know?
I think the stuff that we're talking about here is really the stuff that's valuable, because versus like getting to throw the ball. He doesn't need to throw the ball to Kendrick Bourne, right? But I think this is the stuff that is actually going to matter. You just made me think of this. I guess Matt Ryan maybe did like a Zoom interview or something recently, and the media asked him about these workouts that he's doing, and his quote was like, "Oh yeah, it's really valuable. It's great to get together with the guys, whatever." Well, I was talking to a buddy who knows him, and he was like, "Matt, like, are these things really making a difference?" And Matt's like, we're just throwing this shit around. I mean, it's not really. But it's just good to get out there and run around a little bit, you know. So I think we can overstate kind of the value of throwing to each other. I think it's really valuable when it's about building towards something together, building team. All the stuff that every coach who's ever started coaching a team has ever tried to do is just build this kind of fight for your brother type attitude. And it doesn't always happen. It's hard to do. They got it. And it can be a little, we can overstate it and you can make too much of it, whatever, but it's not nothing.
To me, especially like the geography of this factors into this conversation.
100%. If they were back at San Jose State like they were last time, we probably wouldn't be talking about it.
No. That he flew everyone to go to Nashville to get with the group of guys. I also think there's another element of like, for as much as he wants a new contract and deserves a new contract, it's kind of clear what George is, right? George ain't isolating himself, Jalen Ramsey, Khalil style. And I don't blame Khalil or Aaron Donald for doing that. It ain't really his style. And having been around him, right, we've talked to him, but just followed his career so closely, and you just hear so much from George. I have a hard time seeing whenever training camp starts him not being there. Now, I'm not saying he won't because it's a little different animal, right? Just being there with your guys, fucking come hang with them. Like, why would it's not like his contract doesn't impact anything here. I don't know. I just have a hard. Wouldn't you be a little surprised if he doesn't show up?
I would be. I would. Now,
be
I
too.
wouldn't. You never know. Business starts to get involved, but I would be surprised if you told me that's.
Yeah,
what
I'm not
happened.
saying 100%. I'd probably go like 75-25, but I'm like 75-25. He's like 90% he wants to go. Maybe the agent tells him this is not a good idea. You got to understand. But yeah, the main reason is there is him, right? Like if George had been in Dallas, right? Don't you think they just would have ended up in Dallas? Like they didn't go there just CJ Beathard's a backup quarterback.
Yeah, but what if George was like in Omaha?
Yeah, maybe they'd mate in the middle.
I mean, it is in Nashville.
You're right.